Robert Lee Yates Jr. spent more than 2 decades flying helicopters for the United States Army. He earned medals, he raised 5 children, he attended church, and for more than 20 years he quietly murdered women across Washington state. This is the story of the Spokane Serial Killer, also known as the grocery bag killer, and how one man lived an ordinary life while leaving an extraordinary trail of violence behind him. Now, let's tear into it. For years, Spokane had a problem no one wanted to see. Women, mostly sex workers, were vanishing. Some were found months later, some were found miles away, some were found with plastic bags over their heads, executed with a single gunshot. At first, the cases looked disconnected. Different locations, different years, different victims. But eventually a pattern emerged. And when investigators finally uncovered the truth, they realized the killer had been hiding in plain sight, wearing a uniform, saluting the flag, and flying above the very communities where his victims disappeared. Robert Lee Yates Jr. was born on May 27, 1952, in Oak Harbor, Washington. He grew up in what appeared to be a stable, middle-class household. His family attended a Seventh-day Adventist church, and by outward appearances, there was nothing especially alarming about his childhood. But buried in his family history was something deeply unsettling. In 1945, 7 years before Robert was born, his grandmother murdered his grandfather with an axe. That act of extreme violence would later take on an eerie significance, especially as investigators tried to understand how brutality could pass quietly through generations. Yates graduated from Oak Harbor High School in 1970. By all accounts, he blended in. He wasn't known as a troublemaker. He wasn't violent in public. He didn't stand out, which made what came next even more disturbing. In July of 1975, a young couple, Patrick Allen Oliver and Susan Patricia Savage, were found shot to death near Walla Walla, Washington. At the time, the murders were shocking but unresolved. There were no solid suspects, no clear motive, and eventually the case went cold. It would remain cold for decades until Robert Yates confessed. This appears to have been his first known kill, and like many serial offenders, he didn't stop. That same year, Yates began working as a corrections officer at the Washington State Penitentiary in Walla Walla. Think about that for a moment. A man who had likely already killed was now responsible for guarding inmates, many of them violent offenders. 2 years later, in 1977, Yates enlisted in the United States Army. He trained as a pilot. He flew helicopters. He became certified to operate civilian transport aircraft. Over time, he served in Germany, Somalia, and Haiti during United Nations peacekeeping missions. He earned the U.S. Army Master Aviator Badge, along with multiple commendations. To everyone around him, Robert Yates Jr. was disciplined, dependable, and trustworthy. Meanwhile, behind closed doors, he was evolving into a serial killer. Between 1988 and 1998, Yates's violence escalated dramatically. This was the period when Spokane County saw a disturbing pattern emerge. Women disappearing from known prostitution areas, later discovered dead, often shot once in the head. Many victims were found months after their deaths, badly decomposed, dumped in remote locations. Yates often used plastic grocery bags to cover their heads. Execution-style shootings. Minimal forensic evidence, at least at first. Police suspected a serial killer, but the investigation dragged on for years. Yates was patient, calculated, and incredibly careful. Only one woman is known to have survived an encounter with Robert Yates. She told police she was assaulted by a man in his late 40s or early 50s. About 5 feet 10 inches, sandy blonde hair, driving a black van with wood paneling and a raised bed. During the assault, she was struck in the head. Later, police found bullet fragments in her hair. She hadn't even realized she had been shot. The man told her he was a National Guard helicopter pilot. He said he had 5 children. Years later, after Yates' arrest, She saw his photograph in the newspaper and immediately contacted police. Her description matched him perfectly. One of Yates's final victims was Connie Ellis LaFontaine. She was 35 years old when her body was found in a ditch in Tacoma on October 13, 1998. She had been shot once in the head. 3 plastic bags covered her face. Connie was Chippewa and grew up on the Turtle Mountain Indian Reservation. She dreamed of becoming a hairstylist. She studied cosmetology. She tried to build a life, but tragedy followed her. She lost 2 sons, one to sudden infant death syndrome, the other to a heart condition at age 11. Her mother died shortly before that. Those losses pushed her into addiction and sex work. Her father later said she was devastated. Connie wasn't just a victim. She was a daughter, a mother, a survivor of immense grief. In September 1998, police stopped Robert Yates and asked him for a DNA sample. He refused. He told officers the request was too extreme for a family man. That refusal raised eyebrows. Then came the break investigators had been waiting for. Yates had previously owned a white 1977 Chevrolet Corvette, a vehicle seen with one of the victims shortly before her disappearance. Police had actually pulled him over in that car earlier, but a clerical error listed it as a Camaro. That mistake delayed everything, but once corrected, everything unraveled. On April 18, 2000, Robert Yates was arrested for the murder of Jennifer Joseph. Police searched the Corvette. Inside, they found blood, linked directly to Jennifer. They also found Yates' DNA. That DNA matched evidence from 12 other victims. Faced with overwhelming proof, Yates confessed. He admitted to killing women across Washington state, murders spanning more than 2 decades. In Spokane County alone, he was charged with 13 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of attempted murder. To avoid the death penalty, Yates accepted a plea deal and received 408 years in prison. But the story wasn't over. In 2001, Pierce County charged Yates with 2 additional murders, Melinda Mercer and Connie Ellis LaFontaine. This time, prosecutors sought death. In 2002, Robert Yates Jr. was convicted and sentenced to death by lethal injection. For years, his execution date was delayed by appeals. His lawyers argued that he suffered from a severe paraphilic disorder and mental illness. Prosecutors weren't convinced. One famously stated, "I don't think Mr. Yates helps his cause by relying on the fact that he's a necrophiliac." In 2018, everything changed. The Washington Supreme Court ruled that the death penalty violated the state constitution. Every death sentence in the state was commuted, including Robert Yates. His punishment became life in prison without the possibility of parole. He remains incarcerated at the Washington State Penitentiary. 16 lives were taken, men and women, mothers, children, people who deserved more time. Their names matter. Because they are not footnotes, they are the real story. Robert Lee Yates Jr. wasn't a monster hiding in the shadows. He was a pilot, a corrections officer, a husband, a father. And that's what makes his story so disturbing. Evil doesn't always look like evil. Sometimes it wears a uniform. Sometimes it salutes. Sometimes it comes home to dinner. And sometimes it's hiding in plain sight. Thanks for watching.